check it out, man. Yeah, well, it would be an honor, but I mean. Okay, well. Look at that video. Okay.
Just for now. It's streaming live. City Facebook page. I know you put this out.
Book the rising.
It's on our city page. We're recording live now. It'll be on air.
Group. We'll do a group up here, and we'll have them stand here.
I was trying to wait on you out there.
Start in about 2 minutes, so go ahead, and we'll have some pictures up here. Stand in front of the chairs here. We'll have you come down, and I'll issue the oath on this location. That's what the name is. This is what the real Parks and Recreation. Got one more? Taking charge right there. I know the feeling. Let us have that moment of truth. If you all will join me up in front, if you want to stand up in front of the chairs. If you want to come back and take a picture from this angle, you're more than welcome to. Come on, you can come around. I got to make sure that I don't stand in the way of the camera, and there's a joke in there about my best side or not being that, or something along those lines. For those of you, I know I've met most of you before. My name is Joe Bagany. A few months ago, Chief Baker and I got together, and we were having a conversation about things we can do to improve our top of the list actually was the formation of this group. Thankfully, I believe you and I even spoke about it prior to that moment, kind of like all coinciding a couple great ideas at the same time. We know that our communities and our police department are facing challenges unlike that we have not seen for quite some time, and the opportunity to bridge the gaps between our communities and bring people together is actually why you're here. So I do appreciate that. I look forward to working with you in a social context with no drama whatsoever, but again, you're here just to help make sure that that way that we have those kind of communications. We do have a proclamation and an oath for all of you to take, and so I will be reading that momentarily. Afterwards, we'll have the opportunity for you to sign your particular proclamation, and then if you could return them to me so that way my assistant can put them in a more formalized setting for you to take home with you. They'll be at RPD to pick up at your sometime tomorrow afternoon. So with that, we will go ahead and get started. If you can go ahead and raise your right hands, please. I state your name. Faithfully and diligently perform of the police chaplain, Reynoldsburg Division of Police, provide comfort and spiritual support officers, citizens of the community, as I am called upon. Strive to set an example, standard of ethical and moral conduct by not using my position of police chaplain for personal advantage. And I will provide comfort and spiritual support to all persons without bias. I will strive to set an exemplary standard of ethical and moral conduct, supportive of the officers with whom I serve. These things I do, as I will answer unto God. Sworn this day, the 24th of May, 2021. Thank you so much for your contributions to our communities.
Bravo.
Go ahead, and if I may join you. Yes.
Shall we go?
Thank you very much. I may just want to go pick up a signature when they're done. Having fun with me now? That's all right.
Pennsylvania. Come on, it couldn't have been a Western Pennsylvania. Go without a chicken dance.
Good evening, everyone. I would like to call the Reynoldsburg City Council meeting to order. Today is May 24th, 2021, and the time is now 6:32. At this time, we'll have the invocation. Would everyone please stand and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by the invocation. Councilmember Cotner will lead the invocation today.
Heavenly Father, I thank you for bringing us together this evening. I thank you for those who are able to join us, for those who are remotely joining us. I thank you for the fellow council members here who choose to serve our community. I thank you for our administration and those who are doing the best to make this community everything that we hope it can be for each of us. I thank you mostly for the residents and ask that you give us the wisdom and knowledge, the patience, the understanding to serve them to the best of each of our abilities. I ask that you continue to watch over all those in our community. We ask you to protect our first responders. We ask that you watch over them, protect them, and be with those in our community that continue to fight and battle individual struggles every day. We just ask for all your blessings upon us and be with us again this evening as we serve our community. Thank you very much. In your name we pray. Amen.
And I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Molly, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Lawson-Rowe.
Here.
Councilmember Cotner.
Here.
Councilmember Baker.
Here.
Councilmember Bryant.
Here.
Councilmember Strickland.
Present.
Councilmember Salvati.
Here.
Councilmember Pecoro.
Here.
And President Jenkins.
Here. Next, we'll have the approval of the agenda. Are there any changes to the agenda this evening? We are going to remove item 13D from the consent agenda for the third reading, the AT&T cell tower legislation. Are there any other changes to the agenda? Seeing none, the agenda stands approved as submitted. Next, we'll have the approval of minutes. Approval of City Council regular meeting minutes of May 10, 2021. Are there any additions, deletions, or corrections to those minutes? Seeing none, the minutes stand approved as submitted. Next, we'll have the approval of City Council special meeting minutes of May 19, 2021. Are there any additions, deletions, or corrections? Seeing none, the minutes stand approved as submitted. Next, we'll have community comments. The community comments portion of the meeting is an opportunity for citizens to address council. Citizens may bring matters to the attention of City Council or discuss items on the agenda. Before addressing City Council, members of the public are asked to complete a speaker's form and give it to the clerk. The council president will invite speakers to step to the microphone and give their name and address. All remarks should be addressed to council as a whole and not exceed 3 minutes. Do we have any comments from the public?
Madam President, there are no comments that were emailed, but we do have 3 speakers from the floor. Mr. Cadillo. Please step forward.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kasik Kadel, and I live in 7150 Reynoldsburg, Ohio 43068. The reason I'm here is I am a player from cricket. It's a kind of soccer, which is very popular in Southeast Asia and European countries. We have like few reasons why I'm here. I'm here is to request all the city council members to consider a cricket, like proper cricket field for the Bhutanese Nepalese players as well as players from other communities. I moved from New York last year, and what I figured out is there are like several Nepalese, Bhutanese, as well as other community families who have youths who like to play cricket, and growing number of players in Reynoldsburg community, which is causing problem for the cricket community, cricket players here in Reynoldsburg, Ohio. One of the reason I'm here is I would like to request all of you to consider a proper cricket field for Reynoldsburg youths. Another reason is I figure out that cricket field we have is not enough for all of us. In a cricket, we have 11 players plus 2 players from other teams, altogether 13 players inside the field. And the cricket field we have is inside a pathway where like civil people walk. So I would like to request, consider giving us a proper cricket field which should be beneficial for us as well as all the youths in Reynoldsburg. That's all for now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Carrell?
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Uddhav Kharel. I'm from Columbus, Ohio. My address is 5308 Spruce Wood Road, Columbus, Ohio. I'm a member of a cricket team that is established in Reynoldsburg. And the main reason we are here today is to request a field that is request a cricket field which will benefit everyone, including the youths of Reynoldsburg and Columbus. We have seen that many youths who are in Columbus, who are Nepalese, Bhutanese, they have been using drugs and everything. And I think having a cricket field, it will bring them together in one place, which way we can stop the abuse of drugs in youths. Also, the field that you guys provided, it is convenient for now, but to play in a bigger tournament, we need a field that we can practice like a proper field. The field that is right now, it is inside a baseball pitch, and it crosses the pathway of civilian as well. Also, we are not we cannot play the full game that we are supposed to play in that field, which stops like us from getting better and win tournaments. Our team has been winning tournaments since 2015. We used to play in a sidewalk. Thanks to you guys, we have a decent pitch right now, but that pitch, it is not enough for us to win many other tournament that will be in many other states. And I think if we make a proper pitch in Reynoldsburg, we can invite other states to play here. That will benefit Reynoldsburg City as well as many other communities. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yes.
I know we're going to have another, I'm sure the other person's got the same concept, but I just want to ask, where else, are there other fields around Central Ohio, that a cricket field that in Columbus or
Yes.
some other area that's in the
Yeah.
area nearby?
There are many fields in Columbus, Ohio.
Where's a good one that I could see?
The good one, you can see one in Total Park in near OSU. But for us to practice in there, they charge around $200 for one practice game. And we do not have that kind of fund to practice.
Well, like I said, it's interesting to hear you've been doing tournaments and things, and I was just kind of curious where some of those fields and what they
Yeah,
look like.
when
So,
we-
thank you. Oh, I mean, you can answer. Sorry, I just
Yeah,
want to say thank you.
When we organize a tournament in here, we usually rent a pitch from other communities, and the rent for that like tournament of 2 days, it exceeds around $1,500, and it is very difficult for us. And I think we need one pitch for our team.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Mr. Pecoro?
Hello, everyone. Good evening. My name is Dilly Pokra. I live in Reynoldsburg, Ohio. My address is 7648 North Oak Brook Drive, Reynoldsburg, Ohio 43068. I'm here today to request a cricket field. I'm just going to be piggybacking on what they said earlier. We do not have a proper cricket field. The one we have here is a baseball field. And cricket, we play it like 360 degrees. We have to hit the ball on all the directions. And we can't really do that here because there's a sidewalk and a parking lot on like behind, and we can't really hit the ball behind. And like the cricket can be played with two different balls. This one's soft. If you get hit by one of these, like it's not really gonna hurt much. But this one, if you get hit by one of these on your head, it could be fatal. So like we can't like do this over here at Civic Park. Other things like you said, like when we wanna like organize a tournament, like we can invite like people from other cities or like states or whatnot. Like we have to rent a cricket field, which I'm sorry. Which can cost a lot of money, and then obviously like working like 9-to-5 job on minimum wage, like we're not gonna be able to afford that. So I would like to request a proper cricket field where we can practice properly and win more tournaments in the future. Do you guys have any questions for me?
How good are you guys?
We have won about 3 to 5 tournaments so far since 2015.
And what is the cricket season? Is it like summer? Does it go baseball season?
Well, yeah, we can't really play during the winter time because obviously it's cold and like catching these balls is really gonna like hurt your hands and whatnot. But yeah,
Cool.
like springtime and summertime will be the best time to play.
Is the white one regulation or is the green one, or you use both of them in a tournament?
Could you speak up, please?
I'm sorry, is the white ball, is that the regulation one, or is it the green one, or does it
yeah,
matter?
like at international level, this is the one they play. Yes, sir. Okay, any other questions?
But out here, you play the soft one, right?
Yeah, this is the one we're playing right now.
Okay.
Yep.
So,
Okay.
can I ask a question? Okay. So the one cricket field that you have right now, that we have in the Civic Park,
Right.
you are not able to play there because the ball, you are thinking that ball goes out and hit the car and
Right.
people, those who are walking around, right? That is the
Right,
main
yeah,
reason.
absolutely, yep.
How is the pitch? Is the pitch good or
Well, the pitch is good. It's just not in a good location.
enough area is not there, right?
Right, yep.
Okay.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Madam President, there are no further requests for comment.
And we don't have any other emails either, Molly? Do we have any comments from council?
One, thank you all guys for coming out and speaking for this cricket field, because I myself used to play cricket when I was young, not a player, but like go and play outside for fun. And once I think you already are playing here, and I see some time, but this is a new game that will be coming to our community. I think you guys are doing good, so hopefully we'll see something happen soon.
Thank you, gentlemen, for coming in. And I see the concerns about the current cricket field that you mentioned, so I'm in agreement with you. And Councilman Connor, there's a good one over in Obetz. You might want to check it out.
Do we have any other comments from council? Do we have any comments from Mayor Begany?
Yes, Madam President, thank you. I have a few for this evening. I'll start off with a couple of proclamations. As you may not be aware that this is actually Emergency Medical Services Week. Whereas emergency medical services is a vital public service, and whereas the members of emergency medical service teams are ready to provide life-saving care to those in need 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and whereas access to quality emergency care dramatically improves the survival and recovery rate of those who experience sudden illness or injury, and whereas emergency medical services have grown to fill a gap by providing important out-of-hospital care, including preventative medicine, follow-up care, and access to telemedicine, and whereas the emergency medical service system consists of first responders, emergency medical technicians, paramedics, emergency medical dispatchers, firefighters, educators, administrators, emergency physicians, trained members of the public, and other out-of-hospital medical care providers. And whereas members of the emergency medical service teams, whether career or volunteer, engage in thousands of hours of specialized training and continuing educations to enhance their life-saving skills. And whereas it is appropriate to recognize the value and the accomplishments of emergency medical services by designating Emergency Medical Services Week now, I, Joe Begany, Mayor of the City of Reynoldsburg, proclaim May 16th through 22nd to 2021 as the Emergency Medical Services Week. I also have another one, which is unfortunately more timely than ever at this time, Jewish American Heritage Month, as we've seen with the rise of anti-Semitic discrimination over the last few months. Whereas the Jewish American Heritage Month has its origins in 1980 when Congress authorized and requested the president to issue a proclamation designating a week in April or May as Jewish Heritage Week. And whereas President Carter issued the first proclamation in April 1980, which spoke about the bountiful contributions made by the Jewish people to the culture and history of the United States. And whereas on April 20th, 2006, President George W. Bush proclaimed that May would be Jewish American Heritage Month, formalizing the crowning achievement in an effort by the Jewish Museum of Florida and South Florida Jewish community leaders that resulted in resolutions urging the president to proclaim a month that would recognize the more than 350-year history of Jewish contributions to American culture. And whereas the Jewish American story is an essential chapter of the American narrative, it is one of refugee from persecution, a commitment to service, faith, democracy, and peace, and of tireless work to achieve success. As leaders in every facet of American life, from athletics to entertainment and the arts and academia, business, government, and our armed forces, Jewish Americans have shaped our nation and helped steer the course of our history. We are a stronger and more hopeful country because so many Jews from around the world have made America their home. Now, therefore, I, Joe Begany, Mayor of the City of Reynoldsburg, Ohio, proclaim May 2021 as Jewish American Heritage Month. So I thank you for those. I would also like to thank Councilman Boone Paccarel and Councilwoman Jeanette Strickland for joining me this weekend at Plant Reynoldsburg. It was a great event for the community where we planted 2,700 plants, and only about 75 of the ones that I planted had to be replanted in a better way this weekend. I would also like to thank Councilwoman Jeanette Strickland for joining me and Councilman Baker for joining me this weekend at Civic Park, where actually we did discuss a potential new cricket pitch that we're going to try and work on so we can improve those things to address some of the concerns that were brought forth today. I also wanted to say a self-serving congratulations to the class of 2021, as Reynoldsburg City School students will be graduating next week. And I was asked to provide a brief update on a couple of items of interest. The update on the PNC Bank, we are actually working through the title services right now and awaiting a closing date for the PNC Bank. No phase 2 is needed for PNC. And we are awaiting the PNC or the phase 2 environmental results from the Happy Dragon. We hope to have those in the not too distant future, and then we will be able to establish a closing date for those 2 locations. But we are progressing very well on all of those. With that, I'll take any questions. If not, thank you very much.
I just have one question regarding the, we had approved the purchase of those properties. Is there a deadline or a timeline for us to purchase those as far as with the contract or with the realtor? Do we have a deadline for that?
Yeah, so we have a contingency period on both of those contracts. The contract for the PNC was signed, I think, formally last week. And we have a contingency period of 45 days on that contract. On the Happy Dragon, that was signed about 2 weeks ago. And we put in a 60-day period between contract signing and closing to give the owner enough time to close up the property.
So will we have time between the research that we're doing and the actual purchase of the property?
I believe so. I mean, I think we are going to get the title commitment on the PNC lot this week. Title commitments typically don't take that long. For example, we already have the title commitment back on the West Licking transfer. The thing that we are waiting on the Happy Dragon would be the phase 2. Obviously, that's going to be a very important document for us to review when we get it.
Thank you. Next, we'll move on to our communications. We do not have any additional communications this evening. Next, we'll have our reports. Clerk of Court report. Molly, would you please read that report?
Madam President, the Clerk of Court submitted monies collected from the courts held on April 8th, April 15th, April 22nd, and April 29th, amounting to $31,344.
Thank you. Next, we'll have our Development, Parks, and Recreation Committee report. Councilmember Baker.
Thank you, Madam President. This is the Development Park and Recreation Committee meeting for May 24th, 2021. Members in attendance are Councilmember Cotner, Councilmember Lawson Rowe, Councilmember Pacquiao, myself, and you, Madam President. The first item on the agenda is an ordinance to approve final plat plan for the Spring Hills Farm Development, Section 2, Part A. Mayor or Director, Director Bajman here. Mr. Mayor, would you like to speak?
Yeah, thank you, Chair Baker, members of council. This is basically the next step in the phase. It seems that MI is moving forward with opening up their Phase 2 to open it up based on the housing need in central Ohio, so they are moving ahead. If you've had a chance to drive by the location in recent weeks, you can see that they've made a lot of progress. Most of things that had been holding them up was the extension of the sewer lines, but that is well underway, and they're very eager. We anticipate a grand opening of sorts, a ceremony sometime in mid-June at this point, but as soon as we have a confirmation date on that, we'll let you know. But they are moving faster than anticipated based on the interest and the demand for those locations.
Any questions for the mayor from the committee? Any from council? Okay, seeing none, I motion that we forward this on to council for its first reading. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Pacquiao. Any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Okay, ayes has it, and this will be forwarded to council for its first reading. Second item on the agenda is an ordinance to approve the final plat plan for Spring Hill Farms Development, Section 2, Part B. Mr. Mayor, would you like to speak on this?
Pretty much the same thing, just the continuation all the way across.
Okay, cool. Any questions from council? Any from the committee? Now any from council? Okay, seeing none, I will go ahead and make the motion that we forward this ordinance on for its first reading. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilwoman Lawson Rowe. Any other discussion? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Okay, this motion passed, and it will be forwarded on to council for its first reading. Madam President, back to you.
Thank you. Next, we'll have Public Safety, Law, and Courts Committee. Councilmember Bryant.
Thank you, President Jenkins. This is the Public Safety, Law, and Courts Committee meeting for May 24th, 2021. Members in attendance are Councilmember Cotner, Councilmember Lawson Rowe, Councilmember Pacquiao, myself, and President Jenkins. Item 1 is an ordinance to repeal ordinance number 47-2021, requiring face coverings in any public square to limit the spread of COVID-19 and declaring an emergency. This legislation is being requested as a single read emergency. Attorney Shook.
Yes, Councilmember Bryant. This ordinance is being presented to council in consideration of recent guidance that has been issued by the CDC and the upcoming anticipated orders from the state of Ohio. As you know, when we put this ordinance in place last summer for the mask mandate, we anticipated that we would not be aggressively enforcing that ordinance and that we would receive mass voluntary compliance, and that prediction was correct. We did not have to enforce that ordinance once. We received a lot of voluntary compliance. However, given the update from the CDC and from the state of Ohio, I think it could be expected that compliance will dramatically reduce. And if we are not enforcing the ordinance, then it seems best to go ahead and remove it. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Do we have any questions or comments from the committee on this legislation? From council?
Just glad to see this being done.
I move that we forward this ordinance to council as a single read emergency. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilmember Pacquiao. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. This ordinance will be forwarded to council as a single read emergency. As there is no further business for the Public Safety, Law, and Courts Committee, I return the meeting to you, President Jenkins.
Thank you. Next, we'll have Public Service and Transportation Committee. Councilmember Strickland.
Thank you, Madam President. This is the Public Service and Transportation Committee meeting for May 24, 2021. Members in attendance are Councilmember Cotner, Councilmember Pacquiao, Councilmember Lawson Rowe, myself, and President Jenkins. Item number 1, an ordinance to repeal and replace ordinance number 35-2021, authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract with MHT pertaining to the inspection services for the 2021 street improvement project, appropriating funds and declaring an emergency. This ordinance has been brought back to the committee to amend the legislation to add a contingency amount and approve the ordinance tonight. Director Dorman.
Thank you, Councilwoman Strickland. So this ordinance was brought to you, I think, 3 meetings ago. Due to the complexity of our street program this year, we broke it down into 3 separate contracts. Typically, it's just 1 bid. This year, we broke it down into 3 contracts. We're trying to get as much work as done as we can. And as part of that, EMHT's proposal was based on each street. For some reason, it was just a clerical, we left off one of the streets. So this money was just, you approved $111,000 3 meetings ago. This is just for another $13,000. So the easiest way to do this is to repeal and replace the prior ordinance that you already passed. So basically, that's what this does. It covers the entire contract for EMHT. And I believe that was attached to the original ordinance, and so it was always there.
Okay. Are there any questions or comments from the committee on this legislation?
I have a question.
Yes, Councilmember Pacquiao.
Yeah, thank you. So when we bring this ordinance in the beginning, we are not aware of this thing, or like we are adding a new street there?
The numbers were there, just they weren't added properly. It was short $13,000, hence the reason we're asking for this to make it the correct amount. The contract that was attached to the original ordinance was for this amount. However, the language, the number in the ordinance did not correspond to the contract, if that makes sense.
Other questions from the committee? From council? I move we amend this ordinance to add $13,801 as a contingency to the ordinance. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Pacquiao. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
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 Oppose? Motion carries. I move we forward this ordinance as an amended to council as an emergency read.
Thank you.
Is there a second? Need another second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Pacquiao. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. This ordinance as amended will be forwarded to council for emergency passage. Item number 2, an ordinance authorizing the clerk of council to certify nuance costs of 2020 for collection by the Franklin County Auditor. Director Dorman.
Yes, so every year we do the nuisance ordinance, which basically allows us to assess the property owners who have not paid invoices that we've sent to them for either mowing of grass, sometimes leaking water bills. This is basically just a cleanup ordinance. This has to go to the Franklin County Auditor, who will then certify it and do an assessment on the properties.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the committee?
Excuse me, Chair.
Yes, Madam Councilwoman.
Not necessarily a question, but more of a comment, and then maybe if you could educate us. I'm familiar with code enforcement and when you receive a violation and the such. I have a new lens for code enforcement and violation now that I'm out doing my ward walks. Could you please share what sort of notice do our neighbors receive in terms of when something is reported, when you send an officer out, how much time they have to be in compliant, and then once they're not in compliant for however long, then the city takes action?
Okay, so we have 3 code enforcement officers right now. 2 are certified by the International Property Maintenance Code Organization. When we go out, we have 1 gentleman who just handles all the commercial properties, because commercial properties are pretty complex. A lot more things to those, especially when we're trying to find the owners and the statutory agents for those. And then the other 2 code enforcement officers mainly work the residential areas. Typically, like we've talked about, we're mainly looking at the large ticket items that you see driving by at 20, 30 miles an hour. Grass, can we visibly see address numbers, peeling paint on the house, shingles, making sure the roof's intact. Depending on the violation, each one is different on the amount of time to remedy. Larger violations like a roof, we know it's going to take a little longer time. And in particular with COVID, we try to be really sensitive with people. It's not just people being out of work, but it's just even finding contractors to do the work. So we've been really sensitive with people as long as they show us that they're trying, attempting. They can show us, hey, I have these proposals. However, this contract's not going to be available for a month. But if we only gave them 2 weeks, we'll extend that for the month and make sure that it gets done. It does add a little more work for the code enforcement officers because they're constantly kind of checking back up on those properties. But it depends. Like, for instance, grass is 7 days. If we go back after 7 days and it hasn't been mowed, it's called a 0-day notice, and we send someone out to mow it at that time. We only mow what we can get to, so we don't go into backyards if there's a gate shut or anything like that. We just mow the front. Couches and things that are left out, a lot of maybe set-outs for renters or other things where someone has set something out and it just won't get picked up because it doesn't follow Rumpke's guidelines. We'll consistently try and reach the person that's occupying the home to explain to them what needs to be done, but if not, we have to have it picked up. We don't want a kid getting in, something, or if something happening with a hazard. So once again, we have that hauled away, and then they have to pay for that as well if they don't pick it up by the time that we give them typically, which is 1 week usually. So it really depends on the violation. Most of these are all typically grass and litter pickup stuff. We don't typically, we're not going to have our contractor go out and put a roof or a siding on a house. We'll continue to work with those people. And City Attorney and I have talked in depth about our goal is definitely not to bring residential properties to Mayor's Court unless it's just such a crass act where it's just such a blatant violation where they're just disregarding every attempt that we're trying to make resolution with. So, I don't know if that answers your question.
Thank you.
And the collections this is on the Franklin County side for 2020, is that correct? And it was about a little over $16,000 that was collected. Thank you. Are there any questions from the council? I move we forward this ordinance to council for a first reading. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Lawson Rowe. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. This ordinance will be forwarded to council for a first reading. Item number 3, an ordinance authorizing the clerk of council to certify nuance calls 2020 for collections by the Lincoln County Auditor. Director Dorman.
So same thing. Obviously, as everyone knows, we have 3 counties that we touch upon. Fairfield County, we don't typically get this because it's mostly just commercials and apartments. But once again, just to kind of educate a little bit too, there's different processes too. So when we give this reporting to them, it's kind of interesting. Each auditor requires we submit it in a different format. So Debbie Keys, who works in the building department, is in charge of that and does a fantastic job of that every year, making sure it meets all the requirements and how the spreadsheet's laid out so that it seamlessly just goes to them and then they go through their process. So.
Any questions from the committee? And for the Lincoln County side, again, this was in 2020, and this is a little over $1,600 for this that's going to be collected. Thank you. Any questions from the council? Great. I move we forward this ordinance to council for a first reading. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Lawson Rowe. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. This ordinance will be forwarded to council for a first reading. As there is no further business for the Public Service and Transportation Committee, I return the meeting back to you, President Jenkins.
Thank you. Next, we'll have Finance and Administration Committee. Councilmember Sabati, please.
Thank you, President Jenkins. This is the Finance and Administration Committee meeting for May 24th, 2021. Members in attendance are Councilmember Baker, Councilmember Bryant, Councilmember Strickland, myself, and President Jenkins. First item on the agenda is a resolution adopting the tax budget for the city of Reynoldsburg, Ohio for the fiscal year beginning 2022 and declaring an emergency. Auditor Sisak will now tell us how he's going to make it rain tax money.
President Jenkins, Chairman Salvati, this legislation is the annual tax budget. It's a piece of legislation that's required by our 3 counties. I've asked that it pass as an emergency after 3 readings. After 2 readings, we need to set a public hearing. The 2022 tax budget has anticipated revenue of $21 million and expenditures of $20 million. These are just estimates. We're not bound by them. And also, we have additional monies coming in from the American Rescue Plan. The tax budget's required by the Ohio Revised Code, and it needs to pass by July 20th. And if there's any questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
Okay. Any questions from the committee? Any questions from council?
I do have a question here. So good evening, Auditor Sisak. Is there anything that stands out to you regarding what you have been able to prepare? Any good news or bad news? It looks like the mayor said it was going to be pretty good this year. Can you speak a little bit more about that in depth?
Absolutely, Councilmember Strickland. We've got, the first time I started coming to these meetings was 2015, and the budget was about, or the anticipated revenues were about $14 million. Now we're up to $20 million. If we look, one of the things I checked on today was your budget, your packet. Your packet only had the top page on it. Even though I uploaded the entire spreadsheet, it didn't take it into the your minute track program. So the council clerk has sent you the entire form to look at. But if you look at our ending balances, you'll be able to see significant growth in our in the amount of money that we have. We started 18 with $5 million, and now we've got close to 13 in our general budget, general fund. So things, even despite the flood and a plague, we're doing pretty well.
Okay, any other questions from council? All right, I move we forward this ordinance to council as a first read. Is there a second? Second by Councilmember Baker. Any further discussion? All right. All in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, this ordinance will be forwarded to council for its first read. The second item on the agenda is an ordinance appropriating funds for the Bryce Road Main Street TIF for agency transfer to allow for payment to the Reynoldsburg City School District. Auditor Sisak.
Chairman, President Jenkins, Chairman Salvati, this is pretty straightforward. We're taking $10,000 from the unappropriated general fund and placing it into the TIF fund to pay Reynoldsburg City Schools our obligations for them. It can go with full 3 readings, no emergency.
Okay, great. Any questions from the committee? No? Any questions from council? All right, I move we forward this ordinance to council for its first reading. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilwoman Strickland. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Any opposed? No? All right, this ordinance will be forwarded to council for its first reading. As there is no further business for the Finance and Administration Committee, I return the meeting to President Jenkins.
Thank you. Item 10 on the agenda is consent agenda for emergency adoption. Items 10A through and B are part of a consent agenda. These ordinances stand for emergency adoption. Unless someone wants to remove an item for further discussion, council will move forward with a vote on these ordinances. Would the clerk please read items 10A and B?
A, an ordinance to repeal and replace Ordinance 35, 2021, authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract with EMH&T pertaining to inspection services for the 2021 street improvement project, appropriating funds and declaring an emergency. B, an ordinance to repeal Ordinance Number 47, 2021, requiring face coverings in any public space to limit the spread of COVID-19 and declaring an emergency.
May I have a motion to approve these ordinances? Councilmember Baker? May I have a second? Councilmember Strickland? Would the clerk please call the roll?
Councilmember Lawson Rowe.
Aye.
Councilmember Cotner.
Aye.
Councilmember Baker.
Aye.
Councilmember Bryant.
Aye.
Councilmember Strickland.
Aye.
Councilmember Salvati.
Aye.
And Councilmember Pecoro.
Aye.
These ordinances are approved, 7 affirmative votes and no negative votes. Item 11 on the agenda is a consent agenda for a first reading. Items 11A through F are part of a consent agenda. These ordinances stand for a first reading unless someone wants to remove an item for further discussion. Council will move forward for a first reading. Would the clerk please read items 11A through F?
Item A, an ordinance to approve the final plat plan for the Spring Hill Farm Development Section 2, Part A. B, an ordinance to approve the final plat plan for Spring Hill Farm Development Section 2, Part B. C, an ordinance authorizing the clerk of council to certify nuisance costs 2020 for collection by the Franklin County Auditor. D, an ordinance authorizing the clerk of council to certify nuisance costs 2020 for collection by the Licking County Auditor. E, a resolution adopting the tax budget for the city of Reynoldsburg, Ohio for the fiscal year beginning 2020 and declaring an emergency. F, an ordinance appropriating funds for the Bryce Road Main Street TIF for agency transfer to allow for payment to the Reynoldsburg City School District.
These ordinances stand for a first reading. Item 12 on the agenda, consent agenda for a second reading. Items 12A is part of a consent agenda. These ordinances stand for a second reading unless someone would like to remove an item for further discussion. Would the clerk please read item 12A?
A, an ordinance appropriating funds from the unappropriated general fund to various accounts in the Parks and Recreation Department.
This ordinance stands for a second reading. Item 13 on the agenda is a consent agenda for a third reading. Items 13A through E are part of a consent agenda. These ordinances stand for a third reading and approval. Unless someone wants to remove an item for further discussion, council will move forward with a vote on these ordinances. Would the clerk please read items 13A through E?
A, an ordinance authorizing the city auditor to remove equipment from the city's fixed asset list for the police department. B, an ordinance to repeal Section 533.08, sexual exploitation of the codified ordinances of the city of Reynoldsburg, and replace with new Section 533.08, sexual exploitation. C, an ordinance to amend Section 533.09, soliciting and loitering of the codified ordinances of the city of Reynoldsburg. And E, an ordinance to amend Chapter 167, Records Commission of the codified ordinances for the city of Reynoldsburg.
There's a correction. The items were actually 11A through C and E. May I have a motion to approve these ordinances?
So moved.
Councilmember Savati, may I have a second? Councilmember Strickland? We're doing items 13A through C, and we did remove D at the beginning of the meeting. So it's 13A through C and E as in Edward. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Councilmember Lawson Rowe.
Aye.
Councilmember Cotner.
Aye.
Councilmember Baker.
Aye.
Councilmember Bryant.
Aye.
Councilmember Strickland. Councilmember Savati.
Aye.
And Councilmember Pecoro.
Aye.
These ordinances are approved with 7 affirmative votes and no negative votes. Item 14 is other council matters. Does anyone on council have any further items that they would like to discuss this evening? Councilmember Pacquiao?
Yes, thank you, Madam President. I have a question, Director Dorman, from a community member. They're calling, asking question about the Canada Code, the street repair. They have been calling for the last few days. Looks like that's been removed and rescheduled for next year or something. I don't know. I was not much aware, but they were telling they know it. Can you tell me about it?
Canada Court is, from what I know, it's one of the streets that's been pushed to next year. We had a few small streets that we just couldn't fit in with the budget that we had, but they are the priority. So basically, those streets will automatically move to the top of the list for next year. I think the other thing we had, there's construction going on too throughout that area, so we kind of didn't want to have a lot of, while there's any kind of truck traffic going on, you know, they were putting a new driveway in, we didn't want to have that coinciding with putting the new asphalt down on the roadway. So we will be publishing, I think, a list of all the streets here in the next day or so, a few days. Our contractor actually was to mobilize today, starting some of the curb work on all the streets except for Priestley today.
So it will be in the schedule. It is already in the schedule for next year, 2022.
Yes, so basically what we do is we have a list of streets for this year that we went out to bid for, that we hope to get done. Unfortunately, with the budget numbers, there was a few streets that we just couldn't do. We look at it, obviously based on the PCR, the pavement condition rating, and some other things. What happens is the streets that we couldn't do this year, they'll automatically get moved to the front of next year's list.
That would include Canada Court and Cuthbert, which are the same. It's kind of two courts within one section, so yes.
Thank you. Just want to answer them because I did not know they moved, but somehow they knew about it.
Yeah.
And I just want to make sure about it.
Yeah, no worries.
Does anyone else have anything they'd like to discuss? Yes, Councilmember Strickland?
Thank you, Madam President. I received an email from one of my neighbors regarding the trash pickup. I know there's still been some concerns in working with Rumpke, and I believe our contract is up next, or at the end of this year, I believe. One of the things that came up out of this conversation was, can Rumpke schedule like their pickup time frame, you know, when they're going to be out in certain areas? And then also, I know you're going to have some, you know, talk regarding the contract. Is that something that could possibly happen regarding scheduling time when, you know, particular parts of the Reynoldsburg would be picked up, the trash would be picked up?
Councilwoman Strickland, most of the conversations that we've had with Rumpke when it comes to something like that, if it's not your traditional pickup time on Thursdays, they won't be able to do it by neighborhood because they're basically, when people come into work that particular morning, they determine how many trucks that they have out there. And while they would normally have 30 to 50 drivers out there, if they have less than that, then they know that they can only hit a certain section of it. So much like a lot of things, they try and puzzle piece together what's the maximum amount of area. So for instance, last Friday, they ended up having 30 trucks in the Reynoldsburg vicinity that was actually able to finish off a majority of everything that had not been taken care of the previous day, in addition to some of the other staffing changes that they're trying to institute. As far as contractually, I know that the current contract has that, you know, for us, we tell everybody, all of our residents to have their trash out by, you know, as early as 12 o'clock on a Wednesday. And so that way, if the trash is there first thing in the morning, which sometimes, depending on the area of town you live in, trash could be picked up as early as, I've seen it probably as 6:15 to 6 o'clock in the morning, all the way up until 7 o'clock that evening is usually when most of those routes go. They are limited in the amount of drive time that they have by Ohio Department of Transportation rules. They have a certain number of hours per shift that they can do, and then whatever it doesn't get hit on that Thursday will then be hit the following day. Or, as we've seen, thankfully, not this past week, but in previous weeks, sometimes Saturdays and even Sundays.
Thank you. So I just want to let everyone know, we all in this together. My trash was not picked up either. So it's one of those things that we're going to have to, you know, get through together as a community until everyone get back up to speed regarding picking up trash.
There was actually an article in the Columbus Dispatch discussing the same thing. And while it is everybody in Reynoldsburg, but there are also other communities, including Dublin, Westerville, Gahanna, they're all suffering from the similar things. Anything, a combination of the lack of trained and licensed CDL drivers to obviously the usual thing, which is pay, and occasionally, how employees are treated. There's a combination of factors that go into that. We did learn that it takes approximately 4 weeks from the day that somebody is hired from the position to actually go through the training where they could take a route out on their own. So think about it, when this started 4 or 5 weeks ago, that first class of people that they tried to get in with their sign-on bonuses and things like that, they're just now going to be coming online to actually drive on their own. So hopefully they will continue to improve.
Thank you. Also, I just want to say thank you, Mayor, for really partnering with me regarding the Civic Park. We had a great crowd. Thank you to Councilmember Baker for coming out. That really gave us an opportunity to listen to some of our neighbors to what they would like to see in Civic Park. So thank you.
Do we have any other comments from council? Yes, Councilmember Baker?
First of all, I want to thank the mayor for reading that resolution, thanking all essential workers as I do. We're almost there. I mean, I can't wait for June the 2nd because I'm tired of walking to Kroger's and walking back to my car to get a mask. First of all. Second of all, congratulations to all the high school graduates. This is a monumental feat in in your life. So enjoy it, because when you get to the real world, it's fun at times. I'm just going to say that much.
Yes, congratulations to all the graduates. I believe the graduation is June 2nd and 3rd, so
yeah.
congratulations. I'm not sure if we mentioned anything about the football shoe drive that is going on. Shoes can be and new shoes can be dropped off here, and I believe at the Raider Nutrition, and that's from May 15th through July 14th. So you may want to drop off your new and gently used shoes for the Reynoldsburg football team that is making that collection. So does anyone else have any other comments? Our next upcoming meetings will be City Council, which will be Monday, June the 14th, 2021 at 6:30 p.m. And we also have BZBA and our Planning Commission meetings that'll be coming up. And if there's no other further business, our meetings will be adjourned at this time, and the time is now 7:24. Have a good evening.